Good morning, everybody. I'm here with one of my customers. His name is Rick. And we would like to show you something about why Industry 4.0 as an adoption is the only option. Uh, and in fact, it's a very exciting journey and how we can actually leapfrog much faster than what we are all used to. So, Rick, if you want, you can go back and then
Very
I'll
good.
call you back again. So I think all of us are aware about one of the pioneers of musician, Bob Dylan. I thought I'll start with it because on one side I'm talking about adoption and survival, on the other side, Bob Dylan is a famous singer, everybody knows him. But what is he saying is something which I would like to say, or kind of a messaging that he's trying to publish, that the slow one now will later be fast. At the present now will later be past. The most important line is now, which says the order is rapidly fading. And the first one now will later be last, for the times they are changing. And in fact, this is something which he said in 1965. And since then, there has been a lot of development happening in the behind, and you see the impact of it in last 5 years. So the whole idea is that the order is rapidly fading, and you need to be aware about it. You need to be prepared to embrace the future that is offered by Industry 4.0. Now, what does it look like? Where does the economy of the world is going? And this is a very clear data point from IMF. If you look at 1960-65, our average growth of the world GDP was 5.57%. That means we were a happy humanity in a healthy planet growing at 5 to 6% year on year. And we had enough to feed the 3 billion population which we had that time. Now, what does the prediction say? That we will add roughly 1.2 billion people in the next 15 to 20 years. That means we'll be 9 billion. Today we are 7.5 billion. We'll be roughly 9.2 billion in the next 20 years. But what does our economy say? What does our GDP projection say? We grew 5.57% in 1960-70. Now we'll be growing max at 3 to 3.5%. Despite all the good work consumer and the industrial world is doing, that's the growth of the economy that is projected. That means we have a lot to do to ensure that we maintain the healthiness of this planet and the jobs for the people and the overall growth of the user experience that we are having. And why is it like this? It's because if you see in the earlier part of the journey, we use our resources very well. We use a lot of innovation on natural resources. But often we have started playing too much on internet. Internet has become a lot of B2C world play and a lot of gaming play than the B2B world play and the industrial play. So we have not profited a lot from the investment that we made of our time, energy, efforts, and creating resources. I mean, any guesses on which is the most important resource for you in the last 10 years? It's not coal, it's not oil, it's data. But how much of data we have actually used to make, I would say, productive use of it? So that's why we are in a situation where adoption is the only option, for us to continue the journey that we have started. Now, which is the other? How is it actually hurting? So you have, this is the statistics again, that the top 500 list is changing very fast. The people who were leading who were in the top 10 list from the last decades they have all disappeared now, and it's all actually the new gen companies, the companies in the high tech world, especially in the B2C world, is actually appearing on the top 5. And why is it like this? Because the industrial customers are very lazy. They are not able to leverage the innovation that is available with different technologies, the data that is available, and we are not mining it enough. So that's what it said. The order is rapidly fading. At the current rate, 75% of the S&P companies will be again churned back. So that's the data point why it says that the industrial world has to really adopt. Adoption is the only option. Now, this is one slide which actually just talks about what is the opportunity and what is the opportunity for all of us to leverage, right? So we talked about in the earlier slides, the reality is 3 to 3.5% growth. The reality is that you have only high-tech companies coming to top, industrial world is lagging behind. One of the reasons is this rapidly advancing technologies and not making use of it. So for example, you had an opportunity to leverage 3, 4, 5 different technologies and come out with a new experience for a customer. I don't want to say it's a product, it's a service, it's a manufacturing technique. It is a new experience for the user. And that's what you can sell and monetize. The B2C world of the did it very well, and that's why they're growing fast. The B2B world is still lagging behind, and that's why they're not growing fast. So, for example, is the autonomous car. I mean, why should Ford don't come out with autonomous car? Why should Google come out with it? It simply says that they didn't adopt it as well as the B2C world did. The autonomous car, for example, is a combination of navigation, the cheap sensors, the cloud that you generate with the cheap sensors, and so on and so on. So similarly, there are other examples like robotic surgery element. In fact, you see the 3D printing itself has become a discipline in a separate line of business today. It's all actually started as a recombinant of innovation, right? The second data point, on one side is the use of various technologies and making a recombinant innovation out of it. The other side, the way we operate with the users, the way we operate with our customers is totally changing. So it's not about one-time experience, it's not about product or service or, it's about the economy and how we can work as a part of that economy. So it's not about maintenance, break and fix. It's all about, it has to be a part of your, service to your customer all the time. It's not about, I differentiate myself in the market not with one or two features. I differentiate myself in the market with how I engage with my customer, the whole business model part of it. So the journey from left to right is a reality. We all experience it. Our customers experience it. We experience it all the time. If you want to be ready for it, the only way is to adopt Industry 4.0. So adoption is the only option. The way you will recombine your different intellectual properties, the way you will package it in a different way to monetize it in front of customers will help you to move from left to right. And that's the way to crack bigger and do the same business like how BTC business is doing today. So with this, so we talk about some of the characteristics of how the economy is developing and how the enterprises should look like. But where should enterprise focus, to adopt the Industry 4.0 and how we can actually offer it as a service. So in our opinion, to simplify it, because I can talk about so much of technology, I think you are all very well familiar with it. You heard about industrial data space just now. But I'm saying, just to simplify the problem, you have to focus on only 3 value chains. One is the user value chain, who is your customer, who is your employee, who is your partner. The service value chain, you rely on how you engage with the customer, how you cater to your customer needs, right? That's one of the value chain you have to look at it, and the asset value chain. It is more about your bottom line and how you actually improve the manufacturing with new technologies. And depending on which sector you are from, the value chain impact will be different. For example, for a medical device industry, user value chain is very important because it's not about asset there, it's about how patients are going to use their devices. So how you can improve the user experience on a device is a high value chain impact for them. For a manufacturing industry, it will be a lot of asset intensive discussions with the customer. So asset value chain is the more important value chain for them. So you need to focus on either all the 3 or one of the 3 is where you have to focus and use recombinant technologies, and you have to come out with a new business model. So your enterprise has to be able to adapt to the new value chain concept that you are selling. What we are trying to say is you are not selling, when I go to BMW or when I go to a company which makes motors, he's not actually selling a motor. What he's actually selling is a technology, an IP, a way to make a motor packaged in a motor. That's what he's selling. If he uses the same technology and IP to come out with a new feature on top of that motor, come out with a new service package on top of that motor, customer will buy that. So we have to think that we are not selling motor, we are selling an IP which makes a motor. So for that, the first thing is your enterprise has to be able to come out with different kind of innovation which are experience-centric. Of course, the first step is connectivity and IoTization part of it. It has to be service-oriented since beginning. The way you kind of create your product, it should not be like it's created for the NASA world. It has to be created for the mass, and thinking that it has to be simplified for the customer to use. And once you build this intelligence, it has to be a demand-driven enterprise. That means the continuous sensing of how your product is behaving in the market has to be there, and it should actually come back to the product and design a new product for you on its own. It has to be autonomous design for your products, and an enterprise needs to work like this. If you know, in the B2C world, that's how the features are coming in Facebook and iPhone and everywhere else. For example, the Samsung S8, if you know, it's going to replace your search engine. If you want to search for a thing, you don't have to put a text on Samsung S8. You just click an image, and the object will tell you, the image will tell you everything about that image. Because you can't describe, I can't describe my shoe on a search engine. I can say a black colored shoe. But it could be with lace, without lace, it could be a different shape. When I put an image, I can exactly tell the search engine what do I really want. And that's what S8 can do. So image recognition has been put as a standard feature now in an iPhone, for example. And it will soon come on a car camera, for example, right? So you need to focus on how it is experience-centric and service-oriented. And I think we have to remember one thing, that SAP 50 years back, it was a hype, it was a great thing. Automation of the back end. Once it was done, the bigger issue was how do you run and manage it to the way that it is aligned to your business needs, to the way that it is still cost-effective for you. And it is leaving your enterprise still very agile and not blocking with the technology. So how do you create an experience on the left side, but how do you maneuver the experience in front of the customer and adapt your enterprise all the time to come out with new series of experiences, right? And it has to be all the time ecosystem driven. So the whole operational technology needs to be combined with the IT technology. So the idea is that I don't need a separate hot desk or a hotline or a separate infrastructure to manage my sensors, an Industry 4.0 platform, and have a separate hotline and infrastructure to manage my SAP and other systems. I should be able to have one system because now I'm able to connect with everybody and all the objects in my enterprise. So, and the success of how you can implement this in an enterprise will actually decide how fast you can go with Industry 4.0. So it has to be an agile enterprise, and the combination of creation of experience and orchestration of experience is what allowing you to adopt the Industry 4.0 much faster. So I would say that when you combine this, that time you will come out with a clear monetization-centric business model. So you are, as I said, you are not selling a product, you are not selling even service, you are not selling product plus service. What you are selling is just an experience, and it is a question of how do you monetize that. The IP, the different IPs every company has over a period of their existence of 20 to 100 years, you need to able to monetize this IP much faster. That's the key message from Industry 4.0. So what we are doing is, I'm not talking much about HCL because, as you can understand, that everything that I'm saying we are able to deliver. But when we look at Industry 4.0 and some of the core elements, which is in the center, which you all know probably, it becomes a very, again, it looks like too many initiatives at a time. So what we are trying to do as a company is to break it up into serviceable elements, something that you can touch, feel, you can see it as a fixed project, and kind of look at the ROI, which you are getting out of it on a step-by-step basis. So what we have done is we have broken down the whole Industry 4.0 into serviceable elements. If you are doing a project in robotics, first of all, how do you know you are an Industry 4.0 compliant enterprise? What level of robotics will tell you that, yes, this is enough? Can you do more? And what does robotics mean? It doesn't mean actually just a physical robot. any 2 or 3 or 5 steps you automate, even with an AI algorithm or with a software algorithm, it's a robotic process. And you will see today an example of invisible robotics shown by my friend. So it's trying to understand what it means for us and behind a project in robotics, and then help you to adopt robotics actually from shop floor to even at the enterprise level. Digital clone and simulation. We all talk about digital twin, but why? Why should I have a digital twin? And what is it new for us? We used to do simulation. We did projects even 10 years back of plant simulation on various platforms, Dalmia, Technomatics, various platforms. What does it add to me? So we are, I think, getting very excited with a lot of terminology, but the reason why adoption sometimes is not happening is because we don't see ROI. And the main thing here is the digital has to add value to the physical. Then it makes sense for me to do a digital twin. It cannot be just a marketing feature. And that's where we are adding value, and that's where the industrial IoT will grow. Otherwise, it will be still the B2C world. So it's not an area of only service engineers, technicians. It's an area of design, shop floor, and the end user experience. For example, a substation, when you go into a power industry, physical substation used to be very, very large complexes, because you couldn't simulate electromagnetic field flow and influence of a transformer into other gadgets in the substation. Now when you do digital substation, you can actually simulate the actual impact of electromagnetic field, and we are actually shrinking the size of digital substation, the physical substation. So that is the advantage of digital into the physical world. So unless you link and close loop digital to physical, there is no importance of digital clone. So likewise, there are AR, VR, AI, we can all talk about it, but why we are only for field engineers? VR can actually add value also to the actual design issues. The larger use case of IoT actually is if I can feed back into product and improve my product itself. So with this, I think I would just invite my colleague to talk about a live example where we are working together. But before I go there, this is some of the more examples we have worked in different sides of industries. You see multiple industries. We work food and beverage, industrial process products. And what we are seeing is that there are a lot of common cases. So what I'm doing with imaging in a camera company, I'm doing same thing, imaging in a microwave oven company, where we are trying to put a camera inside a microwave oven, and the camera can actually predict if the pizza is ready to be removed or not. So it's a question of how do you arrive at a recombinant innovation. And these skill sets, by the way, is not going away. These are the typical skill sets, but it's all about how you bring it down to the front-end solution in a digital way. And that's where we are trying to reorient our offerings and messages to our customers. And these are some of the use cases, but now I will leave to Rick.
Thank you, Hirren.
Thank you.
So you can see that Hirren is really passionate about this topic. And I'm going to try and make it come alive with a topic that you all know well, food. We're in the food business. Well-Built is a partner of HCL. We did our IPO on Wall Street on March 4th of last year, and we've completely organized our company around digital strategy. And you say, why? We make fryers, we make ovens, grills, beverage equipment. You've all eaten food, I'm sure, hundreds of meals from our equipment. Our customers are McDonald's, KFC, Starbucks. McDonald's, cooks 63 million burgers a day, and we cook half of those on our grills. So I'm going to tell you in the remaining 8 minutes an example of how these ideas that Hirren just put forward at a very high level make sense in your world of the food industry. Food industry is $2.6 trillion, and it's a pervasive industry. It's growing a little bit faster than the growth national product in the major countries because of population growth. And what it starts with in our business, it's not the equipment. It's not the fryer, the oven, it's the experience. Our customers hire us to create an experience for their brand, a promise, the environment. And the innovation, it's not about the fryer or the oven, It's at the intersection of disciplines: food, equipment, people, the packaging, the environment. All of these come into play in creating the next level of innovation, which we call recombinant innovation. Now, I'm in this business. I've been doing this for 30 years. And when we have our customers come to us to do innovation, we don't write reports, because people don't like to write reports. We have an artist, and the artist draws this picture. Ah! I just have too much equipment. Don't sell me any more equipment. I don't have room. I'm trying to make the kitchen smaller, higher output. How do we do that? So we have to rethink the whole equipment model. How do we combine? Where does the automation come into the equipment? How do we take this equipment from being relatively dumb to relatively smart? And the answer is we have to combine the knowledge of our various operating companies: ice, beverage, refrigeration, ovens, fryers, grills. We have to break down these silos and connect them, connect the islands of knowledge. And so we took our company and basically brought it together to the center to think about these systems instead of individual pieces of equipment. And we believe these value networks are going to enable us to help our customers create better experiences going forward. I'm going to show a couple of examples. The first example is around a deep fat fryer. You've all had French fries out of these fryers. Frymaster is the leading brand. And this is an example of invisible automation. So here under the fryer, there's a filtering system. The oil needs to be filtered from time to time over the course of the day. And there's a sensor, an oil quality sensor, built in situ that's sending continuous information to the cloud, which tells the operator when to filter and when to change the oil. On the right-hand side, there's an example of a case study around the drive-through speed of service. In the US, 70% of the business goes through the drive-through window. And speed of service at the drive-through window is paramount. So here's an example where the average day was 190 seconds and a good day was 170 seconds. You say, well, it's only 20 seconds. That's not such a big deal. But every 6 seconds improvement at the drive-through equals 1% on the top line. So in this case, by sending the information up to the cloud, identifying the priority variables, measuring them, and controlling them, because without measuring, you can't control the variable, we created a 3% improvement in top-line growth for this customer. I'm going to talk about people. People with special abilities. Labor is the biggest concern in the food service industry. My children don't want to work inside of McDonald's flipping hamburgers, but they don't mind looking at the operating system of McDonald's as a dynamic system to figure out what those variables are, how to measure them, how to control it, so tomorrow they can run a better restaurant. On the right-hand side is a headline from the Harvard Business School 2 years ago. When I read that, I said, they must have a really large endowment, because this is such a natural outcome that cooks make food that's tastier when they can see the customer. So if I'm preparing food for you, I actually put more care into the food because I can see my customer. And vice versa, the customer can see into the kitchen. But look at these statistics: 17% increase in customer satisfaction, 13% increase in speed of service. So this is all about the visual communications of the food service operation and how it comes together where the rubber meets the road, which is the kitchen itself. I want to talk a little bit about robots. People say, oh, but robots will be in the kitchen. And we don't really see a physical robot in the kitchen. We see an invisible robot in the kitchen. So this is an old movie where Arnold Schwarzenegger got his start, and he's being driven around by a taxi, Johnny Cab driver, in the movie Total Recall. Actually, after this, he went on to become very famous as a robot in Terminator 1, Terminator 2, Terminator 3. But Elon actually took the robot and he put it inside the car. And the state of Florida is where I'm from. It has the most progressive legislation on self-autonomous vehicles. By 2020, the automotive manufacturers are competing for share of the 12 trillion miles driven, as opposed to share of the number of vehicles sold. So I want to show you an example of this invisible automation on a machine that makes automatic smoothies. And you've seen a smoothie made where you put the fruit inside a pitcher, it goes on a machine that completely grinds it, there's pouring. This machine is a sensor inside a convenience store. It actually interacts with the consumer. There's a camera, a voice recorder. All the information goes to the cloud, and it dynamically adjusts the menu based on the trends. This is 3 appliances in one. There's an ice machine that makes the ice fresh. There's a beverage dispenser and an under-counter refrigerator. So all of this automation is embedded, much like the automation embedded in the Tesla. And this is the restaurants of the future, where the automation becomes invisible, but the experience of the brand becomes visible to drive top-line growth for our customers. In closing, we see the kitchen of the future being operated on a smart cloud, where the societal trends, the consumer, the supply chain, the ecosystem around the service, all of these things come together to create a dynamic standard operating procedure for all of the global chains. Now, most of the chains today already send their POS data up to the cloud, but very little is going to the cloud with the back of the house and the kitchen. And through the great work that HCL has done, taking our company Well-Built to the next level, we hope to achieve growth well beyond GDP to create tremendous value for our shareholders. Thank you very much.